Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about today is the 4 phases of hyperinflation. And inflation is much more than a monetary phenomena. It rips at the very core of social cohesion. Secular high inflation is one of the worst possible experiences that a population can face. We are now heading for what looks like a global high inflation across all currencies with multiple episodes of hyperinflation. It will actually be unprecedented. Now, hyperinflations are generally defined as periods in which the monthly inflation rate exceeds 50%. The IMF broke down hyperinflationary periods into 4 phases, which comprise of 2 stages. Phase 1 is called the rise. The IMF also calls this the extraordinary acceleration phase, which is the lead up to hyperinflation. The IMF actually terms it the path towards hyperinflation, but given that they define this as the annual inflation rate of greater than 50% but under 500%, an uncredentialed non-economist observer might describe that as already being hyperinflation. The average duration of the first phase is about 8 to 9 years, with an average inflation of about 125%. Now, phase 2 is the actual hyperinflation proper, where wheelbarrows of money, burning banknotes in the oven. In one, there's one story that is from Weimar, Weimer, Germany, where a man went to retrieve his savings from a German bank. He was finally paid out via a check mailed to him in America. The stamp on the envelope cost more than the value of the check that was made out to him. All right, so that just goes to show. Now, over the 20th century hyperinflations that were covered in an IMF paper, the average inflation rate, according to the IMF study, was 2,902%, and the median duration was 4 years. This explosive phase is usually over in about 2 years. Now, I have a graph that I'm going to show you, okay? Now, in this graph, Venezuela is not in this graph because their hyperinflation took place in the 2000s. It is noted therein that the inflation rate there hit at 488,865%. Now, Venezuela has undergone 3 currency devaluations over 14 years, knocking about half a dozen zeros off of their banknotes each time. Venezuela is launching their digital bolivar, their CBDC, okay, in a tandem with a currency redenomination that took effect October 1st. They knocked 6 zeros off of their banknotes in an effort to get in front of the hyperinflation, which has ravaged the economy for years. And this is the 3rd currency redenomination for Venezuela in 13 years. In 2018, they knocked off 5 zeros off of the currency, and then in 2008, they took away 3 zeros. And This might be another indicator of hyperinflation when the time between redenominations shrink while the number of zeros removed increases. Okay, now on to phase 3 and phase 4. There are the second stage of hyperinflationary event, which is disinflation, where the annual inflation rate plummets to somewhere between 50 and 500% and lasts about another 6 years on average. And finally, this stabilization phase, where inflation remains under 50% per year for at least 3 years. Now, it could be argued that there is a phase 0 where the future inflationary path becomes baked in by unsubstantiable debt, while policymakers are still able to talk with a straight face as if there is an alternative. The path to inflation is assured. So it's been said that we've been in phase 0 for over 50 years since Nixon, the Nixon shock of 1971. And we are at the edges of phase 0 to 1 transition now. Yeah. Now, phase 0 could probably be defined as the moment a currency becomes fiat, F-I-A-T. We notice from this chart that I'm going to put up it's of U.S. debt to GDP above that after World War II spending binge, the ratio actually started to decline. Over the Leave It to Beaver and the hippie era, it came down to below the level that it was before the war. Then came the Nixon shock in the early 70s, when the last vestiges of gold convertibility were actually suspended, temporarily, that is. And then since then, the global system has been irrevocably committed to an inflationary path. So here's something that I'm going to put up for you, okay? Look at how the interest due on America's debt has entered the territory where it is cannibalizing the budget expenditures. Now, when seen in this light, it's no surprise that central banks around the world are already backing off of the interest rate hikes. Canada has already said that they are on hold. And the only thing the U.S. is meaningfully tapering is the size of the hike rates. So if the Fed slows down the hikes, they have to normalize higher inflation. So right now, that is 2%, pretty well across all civilized nations. That's the golden rate at which governments can embezzle wealth from the economy, and the peasants will let them get away with it, if that makes any sense. But to get inflation down to that level, and this is according to the Obama era advisor, that would mean in excess of 6% unemployment for at least 2 years. And the Fed wants demand destruction, which means people lose their jobs or their businesses, but not too much demand destruction, just a little tiny bit. Yeah. So apparently 6% for 2 years is too much. So the level of embezzlement will have to be raised And it's not like we're talking hyperinflationary numbers yet, right? So raising a target inflation rate from 2% to 3% is a 50% hike in the rate of theft. But fear not, okay, because the corporate press is always there with a solution. And in this case, it's the Wall Street Journal suggesting that you should skip breakfast. Yeah, they said that skipping breakfast staples saw sharp price increases due to a perfect storm of bad weather and disease outbreaks and continued effects from the invasion. No kidding. Now this is starting to remind me of something else that I read. It was of the infamous Bloomberg piece on how to make ends meet on a measly $300,000 a year. A measly $300,000 a year? Gee whiz. How could one live on only $300,000 a year? Oh, I don't know how anybody could just do that. The damn paupers. Really? But yeah, it was advice that included that you get rid of your car, you switch off from eating meals to lentils, and you euthanize your dog. Slap you in the face. How dare you? I swear, it's not a joke. Okay? So this all jives with core premise that the ESG movement is so widely endorsed by woke, go woke, go broke, okay, capitalists, because it provides cover for the reality that we are in an unsubstantiated debt bubble that's about to burst, and monetary expansion, and that the rabble has to ratchet down their living standards to cope because, oh gee whiz, can you imagine if any of them had to actually live on what we bring in every single year? Oh my God, a measly 50 grand a year. Can you imagine? There would be mass you-know-whats. Okay, so we can all look at weaker economies to see what the future looks like. All right, take Lebanon for example. All right, they just did a currency devaluation again, reducing the oil the official exchange rate by 90% overnight. This came after a spat of bank robberies, okay, where citizens were sticking up banks to get their own money out. No kidding. Now, on January 31st, Lebanese citizens went to bed thinking that the official exchange rate on the Lebanese pound was around 1,500 to 1 USD. Whether or not that they could actually get at their money, that was at the rate, okay? When they awoke the next morning, the official exchange rate had been set to 15,000 Lebanon pounds to 1 USD, okay? The black market rate was even worse, coming in at about 64,000. And now there's, in Bitcoin terms, the collapse was even more pronounced. Now this fiat system is collapsing. Weaker currencies go first, but anything not backed by something tangible is headed for the dumpster of history. All right. In prior high inflation or hyperinflation events, people could always seek refuge in other currencies or adopt some kind of emergency money. All right. But in this chapter of history, in every currency across all political affiliations and jeopardizing every incumbent power structure, it may seem like being on alert for hyperinflation here in the West is bonkers, but keep listening. We are already seeing massive fissures in the financial system, opening up, opening up from normalizing interest rates of 4.57%, well below even the official rate of inflation. And that hallowed, the Fed taper, still has not even gotten going yet. No, it has not. And it probably never will. Banking crises, they are here. We've had three in under a week. Did two of them get bailed out? Yes, but like I said, they were pennies on the dollar. Okay, pennies on the dollar. And if you count the Elizabeth Warren led silver, I'll go on. And former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who went on Bloomberg to say this won't be a source of systemic risk. Really, guy? It remains to be seen if that utterance gets filed next to subprime is contained. Okay? If we squeak through this crisis, and I stress if, we buy some time, but only forestall the inevitable destruction, the global financial system, which explains the incessant drive towards CBDC, UBI, but that could all be too late, given the rate collapse. I'm just trying to figure out how to put this. We are in a total SHTF financial collapse. It's going to be worse than 2008. But like I've said in so many other videos, this is why we prep, right? We have how many family members and friends that we tried to speak to and tried to convince until we were blue in the face. That'll never happen. That'll never happen. Our government won't let that happen. Here we are. Yeah, here we are. And what's going to happen to them? It's like when I spoke to two community members on the phone just yesterday. And I was trying to calm them down, give them advice. And they said, we got this one coming to live with us, this one coming to live with us. And they said, we got this much food. I said, well, you realize that much food just got cut in half. So there's a lot, that's going on. I mean, look at my house. I got eight people. Okay. Will we make it through this? Heck yeah. We've made it through worse, and we'll do it again. But it's up to you as an individual, as a family, to come together with your family, with those you love, and get through this together. Okay? You know that I will always be here. A lot of you have my email, okay? You have my phone number. Just a phone call away. I will always answer your emails. I'm always here. You need to scream, you need to cry, you need to whatever. I'm here. You need advice, I'm here. If I can't answer your question, Trish will. Okay? Please don't panic. Okay? Don't get your blood pressure up. Don't get your anxiety up. We're all going to be okay, I promise you. I'll never leave a man down. I got your 6 because I know you got mine. All right? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fear less. Ciao.